r/AskReddit. Hotties of Reddit. When did you discover that you were hot? And how did it affect your personality? I have ugly duck syndrome. I went through a horribly awkward preteen/early teen stage years. I was chubby, had a horrible haircut, was nerdy and socially awkward. I grew a few inches in my later teen years and started working out. Ended up losing lots of weight. I developed better social skills from being in theater and having to deal with awkwardness all the time. Drama kids FTW. I guess I started seeing a difference when I would drunkenly get asked out by guys all the time, or when strangers would compliment me. I didn't see a huge shift in personality, except maybe that I find myself irritating. I still have huge self-esteem issues, except that if I complain about a part of myself I don't like, it comes off as fishing for compliments, when really I actually do still see myself as an awkward 13-year-old. The other thing I've noticed is that I'm super distrustful of guys, because, as cheesy as it sounds, I don't know if guys like me for my personality or my ass. I mean, I'd love it if a guy was into me for both, but it fucks with my head a lot when someone is really into me, but I can tell they've built me up in their heads to be something as not. Anyways, now I feel like a narcissist, so I'll just stop here. Hope that answered your question. Edit. Holy crap, I did not expect this to blow up. And hooray, the sub is back up. Fellow ugly duckling here. I get feeling suspicious. I still feel so ugly. I look at pictures of myself, and it doesn't look the way I feel inside. I was overweight, had bad acne, and was not very high on the social ladder in school. I lost the weight, meds took care of my acne, and suddenly hot guys were talking to me. The awkwardness of my personality didn't match my looks at all, and it freaked them out. In my early 20s I guess my social skills developed through uni and friends, and I can now handle talking to hot guys without sounding like some kind of third rock alien. But I have a hard time giving them the benefit of the doubt. I have a hard time not judging hot people as shallow sports idiots. And I try to let on how much of a nerd I'm early on in conversation, like I'll talk about Star Trek or something, and then gauge how much that weirds them out. I figure the quicker someone finds out the real me, I either 13 years old who read the Animorphs series alone in her room while everyone else went to somebody's birthday party, the faster they get a chance to withdraw from the acquaintance. TL. Doctor, I screen people by being honest and awkward. I can't help who I am, and it saves everyone a whole lot of time. For me, I grew my hair out from a terrible bob haircut, embraced that I have some curves and got contacts. All of a sudden it was like people actually looked at me. I couldn't actually believe guys were interested in me. It was a mixture of being excited and embarrassed. I wasn't used to it, so I thought that maybe now I was viewed as dumb. I've always been a bit airheaded in a way. I think about too much at once and it all spills out. It's never a holy cow you're stupid kinda way. But I felt I would get talked down to a bit more once I turned into the butterfly me. Overall it's fantastic. That may sound conceited, but I really don't care. It gave me so much confidence. I talk to anyone now with ease. I can do presentations. I will voice my opinion. I also learned that I love Macup, and it's become a wonderful hobby of mine. Realizing at around 18 that I was cute or whatever helped me from being so painfully shy and embarrassed by anything I did to someone who stands tall, will chat your ear off, and isn't afraid to stick up for herself. It made me a happier person with the confidence I got. I was a black girl in a predominantly white suburban area. For clarification, my HS class was maybe 400 people with only 5 black kids in it. So for a while my idea of what was hot was based on a very European look, which I'm not, because that's what I saw regularly and noticed guys referred to as hot. Because of this factor, my parents had me involved in a lot of organizations where I would see more people who looked like me. Knock, Jack and Jill, we went to a black church, etc. When I would be involved in these black environments, people would fawn over me telling my parents I was a gorgeous child, etc. Which I assumed were polite compliments people give their friends' kids, and not reserved to just me. As I got older, grew boobs, curves, etc. This would happen more regularly in both environments. Men treated me differently than my friends. I never had issues getting dates. I had stories of things happening to me with men approaching me that some of my friends didn't. It was easier for me to make friends. I was oblivious to it often, but my friends would point out in public places men checking me out. So about middle school or high school I figured it out. Like others have said, it makes me guarded. Although I have a lot of other things to offer, creativity, I'm smart, I think of myself as compassionate, I sometimes fear people can't see that, or will stereotype me, always worry about stereotyping anyways, because I'm black now we throw this on top of that, yikes. I never trust intentions of the opposite sex who befriend me, and always try not to come off as being flirtatious. People always used to tell me I was pretty and that I should be a model and whatnot, and I always figured it was bull because I never cared about my appearance until around college. In college though, I did start to try to make myself look nice, and it was actually really horrible what happened afterward. Literally 4 of my closest guy friends who I had been really close with came out and said they had always had crushes on me, and although I tried to let them down in the nicest way possible, those relationships just aren't the same. I feel really guarded around them now. I also just started feeling really objectified, and it made me think about a lot of stuff like, I always question if guys are talking to me because they're actually interested in me or if they just think I'm hot. And I think being valued so much for your appearance is really damaging psychologically too. I never felt this way before, but now suddenly I'm really worried about how people will treat me when I get older and I'm not longer hot and young. It's really depressing, honestly. Ignorance is bliss. Different perspective here. I'm an attractive black woman. I did some runway shows and local catalog modeling as a teen. I honestly didn't see myself as attractive for a long time, despite compliments and so on, because I was socialized to fear men's attentions and the stigma, or being considered a fast girl. I grew up being a good girl, in church all the time and extra wary because of that, and didn't even date until college. My mother is also very beautiful and had quite a few close calls in the 60s and 70s as a young black woman on her own in the city. I remember getting attention from strangers when I was a little girl, mostly from other mothers who thought I was cute. But I started getting inappropriate sexual attention when I was around 9 years old. From uncles, cousins, strangers, it didn't matter. And it wasn't a matter of seeming much older, because I had typical black girl hairstyles and clothing that would give me away, like 2 million multicolored barrettes. I think our society sees black women differently. We are sexualized a lot more, starting younger, and it's more hostile and about being honored to even get sexual attention because you're black. I think the stereotype of the video hoe, the wild overly sexualized black woman and so on contributes to that. The Jezebel. My body was really thin and straight up and down as a girl, and I'm now curvy, as in big butt and big boobs, and that has made that sense of entitled sexualized attention worse, I think. Like my body means I'm open to sex from all comers. There is also a bigger chance, I think, for hostility and violence if you say no, because it's insulting to some to be turned down by this woman who supposedly is sexually accessible. Lots of stuck up bitch, straight anger, and following, and I have been in situations where I was really scared for my well-being. I'm pretty good about being nice, and am friendly and easy by nature. If someone compliments me, I smile and say thank you. If they press on, I say thank you, but I have somewhere to be. Doesn't matter, I still get yelled at and followed. I know how to ditch people pretty easily now because of this. This is an issue particularly with black men I've encountered, and I've had to deal with some persistent pursuers because of it. With non-black men, there is this idea that I'm mixed, and therefore that makes me exotic or more desirable. I have 2 black American parents, which means like 90% of black people with any significant heritage in this country I have white ancestry, but the idea that this has a particular look again annoys me. I have friends who are darker than me and have a white parent. I think this hostility and sense of entitlement is even more the case if you're an attractive darker-skinned black woman. The sense of entitlement is huge because you're not supposed to feel good about yourself. I have been burned in the fetishizing my skin color aspect, so I'm always looking for signs that the men interested in me are interested in me because of who I am, and not some perceived idea that I'll look good on their arm because I'm light skinned. The idea that my skin shade makes me a trophy, especially when it comes from dark skinned black men, is awful. I assume he thinks of himself and his mother, who is likely darker skinned, as less than. I have gotten privileges as well. I have never been turned away from clubs, gotten free VIP cards and the like, even when I'm dressed down. I think I've gotten interviews and jobs because of my looks, and, combined with being well spoken, I think of my looks as a blessing and I'm very lucky to have it. Black women are invisible to begin with, but if you're unattractive, and especially if you're dark, I have seen unattractive lighter skinned black women get more attention than absolutely stunning darker skinned black women, BTW, and especially if you're heavy and or dark, that is even more the case. One thing that I haven't had to deal with, that I have heard from others, is hostility or jealousy from other women. I haven't experienced any bullying or hatred because of that. I have women friends, and of all levels of attractiveness and hue, and we get along great. I was never hot at school. I was super nerdy, spotty, and hilariously awkward. Things started changing when I was at college. I got more into music and adopted styles that suited me better, and I was comfortable in. I didn't have anything before. I took a year out between college and university, and apparently that's the time I suddenly seemed to just shift. I'd always been quite active and never had an issue with my body, but my younger teen problems started to fade. I was more styled and comfortable within myself, and suddenly people were hitting on me. Before I was 17, I could probably count on one hand the amount of people who genuinely tried to hit on me or express interest. Compared to the more popular kids, I was invisible. Some girls simply took puberty in their stride and were glamorous and attractive right through school. When I got to university, I was really taken aback with the interest I seemed to get. Probably didn't help I was one of only a handful of girls on my course, but everywhere I went I was getting all this attention that I'd never experienced before. I was still brutally shy at this point, but it at least gave me confidence that just maybe I was actually attractive for the first time in my life. I certainly attribute some of it to the fact that everyone is simply getting hornier at that age compared to school, but I was genuinely starting to accept I was probably more attractive than I gave myself credit for. It didn't exactly help me come out of my shell though. If anything, I probably got even more shy and used the small circle of friends I had as barriers. I went my entire first year single despite numerous, and even repeat, advances from some guys. I had never been a social person, and suddenly being thrust into a spotlight, I had no idea how to handle it, so I simply didn't for a while. The more friends I got, however, I got more relaxed and more willing to be in social situations without clinging to a handful of people. It was a really awkward time for me trying to adjust, but it's interesting to look back and laugh at myself now for being so reclusive and timid. I'm now much more at ease with people. I can meet new people and actually act like a normal human being. I had a weird teens. Currently just shy of 20, I was overweight and rather nerdy, and into, and still am, things like D&D and gaming and such, so girls didn't really give me much attention. I started gymming at around 16 and taking more interest in grooming and fashion sense, and developed really well, made first team rugby and such, and I got more attention in high school, but nothing over the top. Seemed to be an average amount, but nothing to make me think I must be good looking. Anyway, I went overseas for a year, first year out of school, and started dating this really good looking girl over there, who I knew prior to coming over though, so dating her gave me a confidence boost, and it started happening from then on. I was being hit on a lot overseas, perhaps because I wasn't such an awkward turtle anymore. Thanks confidence, and it gave me a lot more knowledge that people thought I was attractive. I came home at the beginning of this year and started bartending at a local club, and now I get this absurd amount of girls coming up to me and complimenting me, buying me drinks, and full on hitting on me, and being really open about their intentions and what they would like to do to me. Often finding friend requests from lots these girls on Facebook the next day and texting me. Within 3 weeks of working at this bar, I was scouted for modeling by a local agency. In a sense, one of their models asked for a selfie with me and then showed it to agency, and they ended up contacting me. I thought maybe it was just drunk girls being drunk girls at first, but not anymore. All of this combined makes me feel good about myself, and now in day-to-day life I get a lot of compliments because perhaps I seem like a more approachable and happier person. So it's really given me this confidence boost, and I definitely feel more good about myself, which carries through to everyday things, which is great. Friends and family say they can see I'm a far more happier / outgoing person. Edit. Remove links of pics cause I had some creepy stalker or stalkers. I'm fairly certain that this will get buried, but who knows. I was the stereotypical late bloomer. I was chunky, wore glasses, had messed up teeth, and was a half a foot taller than all the other kids in my class, both boys and girls, until puberty set in. But even then it took forever for any of the boys to catch up with me. I was bullied, picked on, and pretty much tormented through middle school for being the loud, obnoxious smart girl. When I was growing up in my small town in the early to mid 90s, girls were basically supposed to shut up, be pretty, and agree with what the boys had to say. I had a problem with this, so my childhood was rather uncomfortable to say the least. Luckily, I was rather brainy, and I had a few good friends who were equally as awkward. I just kind of stayed with my crew of misfits from elementary school until 8th grade, idolizing the popular kids and jocks. And then puberty struck hard. I developed boobs. My bad perm grew out, and I started using Sunin so I could be blonde like my mom. I got contacts. I started getting self-conscious about my new body since I grew another 3 inches and was now tall with some curves I had no idea what to do with. All of the "you're fat" taunt started making a lot more sense, because hey, here are 2 fat lumps that came out of nowhere. I guess I really am fat. That led to a lovely eating disorder or 2, and I dropped all of my baby fat, gave up trying to starve myself, and started exercising and being careful of what I ate. I started high school about 20 pounds lighter and 4 inches taller than I was in 7th grade. I was now 5 feet 11 and thin with a nice set of C's. The senior boys went apeshit over me. I had no idea what to do with myself, since I was still a nerd at heart and hung out with the same smart kids who had befriended me in elementary school. They had no idea what to do with me, because suddenly I didn't look like them. It was a really hard year. Thankfully, I was accepted by the drama geeks and some of the people who had always been ambivalent to the know-it-all nerd girl. Now I was cute and funny, since a personality had to develop in me during middle school, since being pretty hadn't been an option. High school became tolerable and college was even more fun, because I got braces to fix my teeth. However, I'm only speaking about male attention at this point. Guys wanted to sleep with me. Girls were wary of me for sure. Gay guys were fantastic. Even with my jacked up teeth, people thought I looked a little like Jewel, I guess, so it became kind of a cute quirk. Once the braces came off, when I was 23 was when shit got real. All of a sudden the super hot guys who would have never given me the time in HS were all over me, whispering sexy things to me, buying me drinks, offering to help me move. It was surreal. It was uncomfortable. It made me a bit sick to my stomach at times, because it was so confusing how people could be so superficial. With all of this being said, I don't think I'm hot. I'm reasonably attractive. I would say I'm a solid 7. I have been told I'm hot though, and even though I don't fully believe it, I figured this might help some of you who are legitimately interested in this type of transformation. I'm obviously much better looking than I was, so that counts, right? My husband thinks I'm beautiful, and so do my children. That's all that really matters. I still have the same best friend that saved me from HS purgatory, and she probably thinks I'm alright, lol. As an adult now with a daughter of my own, I hope every day that she develops a brain and a heart before her looks come in. Because if genetics have anything to do with it, and based on how damn cute she is at 7 months old, she's gonna be a looker. My son is also adorable, so hopefully it will be a good ride for him too. You know how guys complain about getting friend zoned? I get fuck zoned. You meet someone you really enjoy, but aren't attracted to. You think you have a friend that you can trust and be happy around, but in the end, they just want to sleep with you. When you say that you aren't interested in them in that way, they get upset and stop talking to you. I've ended up dating someone I wasn't really attracted to because I didn't want to lose them as a friend. You're more wary of people. Are they being nice because I'm cute? You question everyone's endgame. I guess, superficially it's great. People are nice. I get free stuff. I've rarely ever paid for my own drinks or dinner, but making close connections are hard. I know everyone struggles to get close to people, regardless of physical attractiveness, but it puts a damper on things. You always wonder if your male friends are just waiting for you to shut up and get into bed with them. Girls are visibly uncomfortable when you are around their boyfriends, and if you two start to get friendly and joke around, they shut it down. I've lost male friends because their girlfriends thought something would happen. Also, as I've gotten a bit older I get less attention. If you were once very attractive and lose that, you don't understand why people treat you differently. You don't realize people are acting a certain way because of your looks, and you just think something is wrong with you. Sometimes people become obsessed with their vanity so they can keep the relationships they've built. So it can be lonely, I guess. Found out a couple of years ago, I had that awkward teenage phase where all my limbs were too long and my nose was huge. I've always been a bit too skinny. When I was about 17 to 18, my body parts sort of evened out. I got a haircut, started buying clothes that were actually my size, and started using contact lenses instead of glasses. People notice me a lot now. Strangers come up to me and comment on my looks, or ask me for my number. I get stared at a lot. I get catcalled a lot. My friends tell me I'm beautiful all the time. Some people seem to automatically assume I'm stupid, even though I'm well educated. 7 years at uni. I fucking hate it. I've never felt beautiful. I can almost feel grotesque some days. I feel like it's all just lies, and that someone's gonna jump out and scream psych soon and tell me that I'm really as ugly as I feel. I tend to try and hide my face behind big sunglasses, and I often wear shawls wrapped loosely over my head because most of the time I just want to be left alone. It's great when you want to get into a club though, and I rarely have to pay for alcohol because I've always got a couple of men standing by waiting to buy me drinks, even though I tell them I'm gay. Oh well. I, 31 meters, grew up fat, hated it, hated myself, had no confidence etc. The usual story. Decided in 2011, after a holiday where I was afraid to be in any photos, and after a breakup that was less than friendly, I decided I'd had enough, so put my mind to losing weight. And I did it, up to a point. I never reached an ideal weight, but there was a very clear contrast. 28 years of self-loathing convinced me I was ugly for life. Suddenly I was slimmer, healthier, more confident, and able to fit into and buy nicer clothes. I'm no model, and I have no idea what facial features make a man attractive. But it would appear that, being 6'5", naturally heavily built, and relatively slim, I was suddenly hot. People treat you differently. More smiling, more eye contact and banter with men, more glances from women. In fact, the way women started treating me was ridiculous. Obviously I was more confident, and they like that. But complete strangers picking the seat next to me on the bus and starting conversations? Groups of women making eyes towards me in bars? One time I stepped out of a pub for a smoke, made eye contact with a woman, said hi, and was immediately offered a threesome. I was really into OKC dating. This is before Tinder. The dates started getting more frequent and more sexual. I set myself a policy of never sleeping with a woman on the first date after a handful of incidents. This just drove them more crazy. Girls who I'd been attracted to before, but who never so much as looked at me were suddenly calling me up, messaging me online, straight up asking for sex. I turned most of them down. It was ridiculous. What happened? My newfound confidence landed me an amazing girlfriend. We got happy and moved in together, and now I've got comfortable. Quite a lot of the weight has come back on. None of my hot guy clothes fit anymore, but I'm still happy. Now I'm just trying to claw my way back. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.